Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Y'all, today we are going to be talking about every single book I read in the month of January. Does anybody else feel like January was the longest month of their life while also being like the shortest month of their life? Like, I don't know, it felt like it stretched on forever and then at the end there it was just like over? I don't know, kind of a weird time, but yeah, like I said, just gonna go through all the books that I read this month, talk to you a little bit about them, give you a really kind of brief synopsis. Each one of these books already has or is going to have in the next week or so its own dedicated video review on my channel, so if you want more in-depth thoughts, you can go and check those out. But yeah, let's just get into it. So the first book that I read in the month of January in the year of 2022 was Under Lock by Mariana Zapata, and truly there wasn't a better way to start out my year because I absolutely freaking loved this book. Love all things that Mariana Zapata does, but this book was truly a winner for me. This story is especially good because it combines two tropes that so many of us know and love: the brother's best friend trope and my personal all-time favorite, the workplace romance trope, specifically boss employee. It's just so good. But this story follows this girl named Iris. She is moving to Austin from Florida, I think, because she's gone through a really rough couple of months and she needs to get back on her feet. She's struggled to find a job, so she is moving to Austin because her brother Sonny lives there, and he is going to help her out by giving her a place to live for a while and also by getting her a job. His best friend, Dex Locke, hence the Under Lock, has a tattoo studio and he is looking to hire a front desk girl. So Dex and Sonny's connection is that they are in this motorcycle club together, which is actually the same motorcycle club that Iris and Sonny's dad was in whenever they were a child. They've lost connection with him since. That's a whole kind of part of the story, but Iris basically comes to work at this place and her and Dex do not get off on the right foot at all. Dex, despite how darn good looking he is just an absolute freaking jerk, which is why he can't keep a front desk girl. But Iris puts up with it for all of 5 minutes before she puts him in his place, which is not something that he's used to. But this book is just... Mariana Zapata is so good at slow burn, and she really just does it so perfectly. Within this book, I mean, we see their relationship kind of bloom, build, develop. There's some different drama going on with the motorcycle club aspect of it, with family aspects of it. It gets real spicy at some points, a lot of points. I loved this book and it was completely a 5-star read for me. If you haven't read this, if you haven't read a Mariana Zapata book yet, what are you doing? Honestly, get on it. It's so freaking good. The next book that I read this month was so highly requested for my channel. I think it is the most highly requested read/review I've ever had, so I did a reading vlog of it. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is really interesting and really unique. It basically follows this girl named Monique. She is a writer at a magazine publishing sort of company, and at the start of the story it is revealed that this woman, Evelyn Hugo, she has been like world-renowned, one of the most famous actresses in Hollywood to ever exist. She is now an old woman and she is known for her many movie roles over the years, but more so she is known for her various scandals, typically involving her relationships, hence the whole 7 husbands aspect. She truly did have 7 husbands, and even though she was very big in the media, she's always been a very private person. Like, a lot of people really don't feel like they know who Evelyn Hugo truly is. So at the start of the story, we basically learn that Evelyn, now an old woman, is donating a bunch of her most iconic dresses to this foundation, and she wants to raise money for cancer, and basically she has agreed to do an interview with this girl Monique, and this is the first interview she's done in like a very long time. And Monique doesn't know why Evelyn has specifically picked her for this purpose, but she is all in. She's going to conduct this interview. And after meeting with Evelyn, Evelyn basically reveals that the interview is a ruse. She doesn't really care about the dresses. She doesn't care about the interview. What she wants is for Monique to write a sort of tell-all story about her life. She wants to write a biography. She wants to, for once, give the whole truth, let everyone know everything about her life, because everyone has just let the rumor mill flow about her life for all this time. So many things have been said about her, but she has never given her side of the story, so she wants Monique to be that person. So pretty much this story is kind of told in the form of like a tell-all book. We get to see Evelyn recount the various events of her life, like from her very, very early years, how she got to Hollywood, how she landed some of her biggest movie roles, obviously her husband's, but there is a whole other side to Evelyn that nobody knows about that she is sharing for the first time. This story was very interesting. It kept me very hooked from the beginning. Really cool concept. I did think towards the end it got like a little bit repetitive, and I thought the ending was like kind of predictable, so I don't feel like I loved it as much as everyone else in the world seemed to love it, but I still thought it was really good, and I think Taylor Jenkins Reid is amazing. If you haven't read Daisy Jones and the Six by her yet, that was one of my favorite books I read last year. Same sort of concept. It's like a tell-all, except it's about a rock band in the 70s, which personally was like more my scene than like the old-time Hollywood feel. It's written in script format. I don't know why I'm going off on a tangent, because that's not what we're talking about, but that book is everything. So freaking good. This one is still good, but yes. And the next book that I read this month was a very big deal. I swear it was all anybody was talking about on Bookstagram for a solid week, because of course it's Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This was her newest release, and when Colleen Hoover releases a new book, especially nowadays, people are gonna talk about it, as they should, because she's just incredible. Truly, she can do no wrong, and I've read, I don't even know, 6 or 7 of her books I think at this point, and this one was very different from every single one I've read so far. I honestly, it hurt me. They all hurt me, but something about this one just put me like extra into a deep, dark depression. I guess I should just tell you what it's about. This story follows this girl named Kenna, and at the start of the story, we learn that she is coming back to this town that she is from, this very small town, and we learn that she has just served a 5 or 6 year prison sentence for basically having involvement in a car accident that resulted in her boyfriend dying. He died in this accident, and she was charged for incidental manslaughter basically. And so she didn't know at the time of this accident with her boyfriend that she was actually pregnant. So she ended up delivering this baby while she was in prison. She had a daughter, and she never got to know her, never got to meet her. She was basically torn from her arms. So now she's out of prison, has about $5 to her name, but her only goal in life right now is to find her daughter and get connected to her in any way she can. The daughter is now living with her boyfriend's parents. So Kenna ends up coming to town, and very shortly after getting there, she ends up going into this bar. It used to be a bookstore, and that's what she thought it was, but she walks in and it's now remodeled into a bar. And of course, behind the bar, there's this very attractive man. His name is Ledger, and they hit it off right off the bat. That is not her purpose for being in town. She's not interested in men or anything of the sort. She hasn't been interested in men since her boyfriend Scotty, you know, passed away and everything like that. But she and Ledger end up, you know, having a very big moment. She's catching feelings very quickly until she's slapped in the face with the reality that Ledger is a very big connection to Scotty. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there's very much a relation there. He doesn't realize it, but she knows, and she also puts 2 and 2 together that he is the only connection she currently has to her daughter, and kind of the only person that can possibly get her back to her daughter. This story is a roller coaster of emotions. It deals with some really difficult things, difficult situations, but like every Colleen Hoover book, it puts you in a place where, you know, you want to judge, you want to decide how you feel about a situation, but then she quickly just turns it around on you, makes you think, makes you realize that there's 10 sides to every story, and not every person feels the same way about certain things, and nobody's perfect, and everybody makes mistakes, and we gotta learn that basically. Yeah, this book was very deep, very sort of somber. I will say it had a beautiful ending. It was very beautiful, but it hurt me a lot, and I'm still kind of dealing with it. Okay guys, the rest of my month, like the last 2 weeks, were kind of a chaotic mess. At one point I was reading like 6 books at once. I ended up finishing 3 of those 6 books. The other 3 I'm like 3/4 of the way through, but I'm just gonna leave those for next month because we'll just make that month a little bit heftier. I'm just gonna talk about the books that I actually finished, or somewhat finished, you'll understand in a second, but yes. The next book that I read in the month of January was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, and this is what I meant when I said kind of finished, because I didn't finish this book, but like I'm finished. I got about 82% of the way through. I read it on my Kindle, which is why I know the percentage. This book basically follows this guy named Rowan Kane. He is one of 3 grandsons of what is basically this story's version of Walt Disney. His grandfather's name was Brady Kane. He owned basically this massive corporation that is the equivalent of Disney. They're most known for Dreamland, which is like Disneyland. They have a streaming service. They have, you know, movie productions. It's Disney. But pretty much at the start of the story, we learned that Brady Kane, his grandfather, has passed away, and now they're sort of like divvying up the corporation, the company, and Rowan and his 2 brothers are going to get large shares in it, but Brady basically left behind a task for each of them to complete in order to get their share. And if they don't complete it, they don't get it, and it reverts to their father, which they do not like, and they do not want him to have the share. But Rowan's task, basically you understand in the letter that Brady was very fond of Rowan, very much believed in him. You can tell that Rowan was very much a dreamer when he was a kid, and he lost that along the way, becoming a very like straight-laced, harsh businessman. And so his task is he has 6 months to come up with a great idea to kind of like bring the magic back to Dreamland, and it has to be approved, and if it is, then he gets his share. So Rowan ends up going to Dreamland and sitting in this large meeting where right away he meets this girl named Zara. She's very much not like most girls, comes in late on her skateboard and stumbles into the meeting, and they just start bickering right off the bat. But you know, we do learn that Zara, even though she isn't like the most professional, and Rowan and her don't very well get along right off the bat, she is a very creative person. She ended up applying for this program that they have at the company to be like a creator or a dreamer. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically the people that come up with new ideas for the park, and Rowan is basically intending to use these people to come up with his idea and his proposal for him to get his share in the company. And even though he can't stand Zara, he's going to hire her because he thinks that she's going to be his like secret weapon. And it turns into like an enemies to lovers workplace romance thing, which I just said is my favorite trope ever, but y'all, I literally couldn't stand this book. I made a whole rant video on it, so I won't go too much into it, but it just, the concept and the potential was just, it was right there. Literally that description I just told you, if I would have heard someone talk about that, which I did, this book, everybody in the world but me loved it. I was so excited to read it because I'm like, the concept sounds so good. It's clearly gonna be like a series following all the brothers, like so here for it. But the dialogue in this book was so cringy. The writing was just, the writing was honestly fine. It's just the dialogue, the pacing of it all, the tension was broken way too early. It just was all over the place. It was a mess. It made me truly very sad. Yeah, so all of that is to say I don't recommend this book, and I didn't quite finish it, but I spent so much time on it, like 20 days if I'm being honest, that I'm gonna mention it. But yeah, not my thing. The next book that I read this month, kind of in conjunction with that one, because again I was all over the place, Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the first book in the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series, which is another one that is so talked about. And I completely understood the hype as I was reading this. Basically, the story follows this girl named Lily and this guy named Lo. They both come from very wealthy, sort of like socialite families. Lily's family, the Calloway family, basically owns the equivalent of like Pepsi or Coke in this story. It's like this fizz company. They sell a bunch of sodas. It's very big. So they are worth a lot of money. And Lo's family owns basically the equivalent of like Johnson & Johnson. They sell like baby products and toiletries and household items. safe to say both the families are very well off, and they've known each other for a very long time. Lily and Lo have been close for most of their lives, and the thing that really has held them together for all this time, and the thing that they have in common, is they each suffer from separate addictions. Lily is addicted to sex, which sounds very scandalous and fun, but it really is tough and sad and horrible, but also interesting to read about, while Lo is an alcoholic. And so they basically sort of use each other to hide their addictions from their families. We learn at the start of the story that they have been in a fake relationship. Fake dating, y'all heard it, you love it. They've been in a fake relationship for 3 years at the time that this story starts. They literally live together, they have an apartment together, with 2 separate bedrooms, one of which is supposed to be the guest room, but they literally just live together and they help each other like fuel their addictions without having to address them and without having to let their families know about them. Lily will like drive both of them to a club at night, and Lo will drink himself to his heart's content. She'll go have her fun with somebody somewhere, and then she'll drive them home and they'll do it all over again the next day. There's a whole lot to it, and it's really crazy and really kind of like sad to see what they go through and see these addictions that they suffer with, but it really is like an epic love story. Lily and Lo are each other's soulmates. Like, this is one of those stories where you're just like, this couple truly, like, they are soulmates. They were meant for each other. It was so good. I loved every second of this book. I know that I've heard the series gets so much better as it goes, but I already really liked this one. I can see how some people might not, because the subject matter is like kind of weird and different, and again, kind of like sad, and their relationship definitely is toxic, like for sure. It's not a good situation that they're in, but you know, they learn to work through it together, and it's really, really beautiful. So even if it sounds weird to you, I totally recommend giving it a try. I'm really excited to continue the series. And the last book I read this month, I actually read on my Kindle, so I don't have the physical copy yet, and I feel very awkward talking without the book in my hands, but I read Twisted Love by Anna Huang. Oh my god, I'm going to make a whole video on this book very soon, so I don't want to go into it too much here, but I freaking loved this book. I'd had several of you recommend it to me, and I totally understand why now. You guys know me so well. This story follows a girl named Ava and a guy named Alex. Alex is Ava's older brother's best friend. Yes, 2 brothers best friend books in 1 month. I'm really on a roll here. I didn't even realize that until just now. But yes, they are really polar opposites of each other. Alex is a literal genius. He, at the age of like 14, sold this massive like software system he came up with and made like a gajillion dollars, and he's now 26 and he's like the CEO of this massive company, and he has tons of connections throughout the country and the world. Like, he is just like up there doing his thing. But along with that, he's a very like, again, hardened businessman, doesn't have time for people or emotions because he's too busy running all these companies and living his life doing that. Ava is a very sweet, kind of innocent college student that is, it's a total like grumpy sunshine situation. They do not get along at all. Like, Ava wants to be nice to Alex and wants to be his friend and like wants to talk to him, but he just is like, no, like, don't have time, don't talk to me, I don't care. But at the start of this story, we learn that Ava's brother Josh is going to be leaving the country for a year because he's in medical school, and he's going to Central America to volunteer, to do medical work for a year. So basically, Josh has a conversation with Alex asking him if he can just, you know, watch over Ava while he is gone. She has some friends that are just, like, they're great friends, but they're a little careless, they're a little wild at times, and also Ava just went through a breakup with this boyfriend that won't leave her alone, and she's just been having some issues, and he's just generally like, watch out for her. And even though, again, Alex kind of can't stand Ava, he also has this weird like sense of feeling like he has to protect her at the same time. It's that thing we love in a brother's best friend book of like, she's just like a little sister to me, but also I suddenly see her as a woman. What is happening here? But yeah, the kicker of all of this is that Josh and Ava kind of live together. Not technically, they have apartments that are separate, but they're like right next to each other, like basically share a wall. So Alex ends up moving into Josh's apartment so that he can keep an extra close eye on Ava. So we got brother's best friend, we've got forced proximity on top of all of that. Alex has a very dark past, some very crazy things that have happened, some stuff that's still currently happening as a result of that he's dealing with on the side. Ava has some traumatic issues with her childhood, and so again, like, you're seeing them sort of become friends, sort of their relationship building, major tension, major like protectiveness, and like just it's really spicy, it's really good. It reminds me so much of the Devil's Night series. I'll go into more of this in my actual video, but yeah, I loved it. And then the second book in that series is supposed to be even better. Like, I can just tell from what it's about that I'm going to die over it. But yeah, those are all the books I actually finished in the month of January. It's February now. But yeah, like I said, I had a handful of books that I'm basically almost done with, so don't you worry, those will be in next month's wrap up, and then obviously I'm gonna make videos on them as I go. But yeah, that is it for me today. Let me know what y'all's favorite book was that you read in the month of January. If you read any of these books, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them down below. But yeah, that is it. I will talk to you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching.